Good morning, fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for January 7th, 2025. Well, yesterday was one of those very interesting whipsaw kind of days, but technology continues to be the leader of the market and really had a good solid push yesterday. But what happened overall? Well, we'll take a look at that in just a minute. How about we take a look at what happened overnight? First off, we take a look at Asian markets. Asian markets were mostly higher last night, except for a end of session decline in Hong Kong, dropping 1.22%. They were mostly higher. South Korea was higher. Shanghai was up 0.71. India was up 0.39. The Nikkei was up zoomingly 1.97%, and Australian markets were also higher, but up by 0.34%. If we take a look at Europe this morning, Europe had a good reversal yesterday, started down, a nice zooming move to the upside yesterday, but now a little bit modest in its gains. Right now the DAX is up 0.30%, the FTSE is up 0.24%, and the CAC is up 0.65%. If we take a look at U.S. futures this morning, we've got the Dow futures up 38 points here at the moment. The S&P 500 futures are up by $1.75, and the NASDAQ futures are down by 19.5 points at this very second. So let's take a look at what's going on in oil. If we take a look at oil here this morning, oil had a nice little pop yesterday, but ended up fading back by the end of the day. But we're seeing a little bit of bullishness in it this morning. Right now we've got oil futures up 57 cents at 74.12 a barrel, trying to push on higher. Brent crude is also higher this morning at 76.94 a barrel, and natural gas, UNG here, you can see natural gas after a big zooming day yesterday, kind of cutting that in half on that big zooming move, pulling back here just a little bit on natural gas. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. You know, if we take a look at cryptos this morning, cryptos, well, having a little bit of a rough morning after a zooming move to the upside yesterday. Bitcoin at the moment down $1,247 a coin. Ether is down 48.56 a coin. And we've got kind of mostly lower on those cryptos here this morning, so we'll want to be keeping an eye on those. If we take a look at the US dollar, however, and I'm going to go to UUP. UUP has been acting oddly here against the dollar, but what's interesting is the dollar is actually up here this morning 30 cents. We're at 108 and a nickel, almost 6 cents. On the US dollar futures, so we'll want to be keeping an eye on that. Taking a look at precious metals here this morning, we've got gold pushing to the upside. Right now, gold futures up $12.10 an ounce. If we take a look at silver, silver is also pushing higher, up 26 cents at $30.84 an ounce. We've even got copper. Copper's looking higher here this morning. You might want to keep an eye on some of those miners out there. Take a look at platinum is also higher, and palladium is moving up slightly this morning as well, so we'll want to be keeping an eye on those precious metals. One of the reasons we've got that fluctuation going on here is we're still seeing pressure here in currencies and bond prices. We saw European markets had an increase in inflation at 2.4%. And that's continuing to add some concern on inflationary rates and things here in the United States. So right now we've got the bond yields this morning up, 2-year bonds at 4.27%, the 10-year bonds at 4.63%, and the 30-year bonds 4.86% as those rates continue to go up, and our interest rates, mortgage interest rates on a 30-year fixed are now well over 7%. Let's take a look at, well, I think that's it. How about we settle in and buckle up? Let's get ready for the Tuesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thanks so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at these index charts and see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, we want to look at these without a bias. We want to look at them for what they are, not for what we would like them to be. So first off, yesterday I had mentioned that possibility in that market breadth, and we'll take a look at that here in a minute, that we needed to see some follow through in that market breadth to help us out here on the day, and that breadth did not follow that big pop yesterday, and consequently we ended up whipsawing the diamonds back down. So it's going to be really critical today as to what the follow through of yesterday's move is. If we end up with that bullish candle in here pushing us back up, well, I don't think there's going to be too much worry on that. In fact, that would be probably very helpful. But if we happen to see those bears pushing back down into here, that's probably going to raise some concern. So we'll want to watch that carefully. So if those bulls find inspiration, well, first thing we need to do is see if we can maybe push back up there through yesterday's open, and then we might start traveling on up to see if we can reattack yesterday's high and possibly even coming up into this area of resistance. And that would be some nice relief for those bulls. However, if the bears were to find that inspiration pushing us down, you can see we could lose this trend that we broke out above, and we might come back down and retest some of these lows here in the chart. Breaking down below there would be a major concern for the market, and you could see how easily that can happen depending on how some of the data rolls in today. Let's take a look at our SPY now. SPY, very similar situation, but we've got that good news in here of that gap. Well, it's good news in one area. If we can continue to hold this price support, and the data supports the market for moving back up, we're going to hold that gap in here and start pushing back up. And I would start looking for these areas in here and maybe a retest of this resistance up here. Yesterday we ran up there, we tagged it, and then we backed away from it like it was poison. So watch that carefully here in the chart. If the bears have anything to say today, you could see pretty easily if we were to break back down below here, I think we could quickly fill this gap in that chart, and then we might start progressing right on back down here in that chart if those bears have anything to say today. If we take a look at the QQQ, very much a similar situation here, and although we have rallied back up here pretty sharply in the Qs, well, we also kind of rejected a little bit of price resistance here in the chart yesterday. So it's going to be critical how this follows through. Will we be able to push on back up, retest that resistance, and even break that resistance to the upside? We'll have to watch carefully, because if the bears find any inspiration and we were to push back down through here, I see that potential that we could quickly fill that gap and even start moving down here to stronger areas of price support. So watch that carefully in the Qs. Remember, our valuations are really high, and we are in the blackout period where corporate buybacks cannot be happening here on these tech giants. If we take a look at our Russell IWM, well, rallied up there nicely, popped up, came right up into this trend that I've got drawn here on the chart, tested that for resistance, and then ended up pulling back. So once again, this is going to be really critical on the follow through today. A push back through to the upside, we could retest that resistance up here, maybe even pop out. If those bears were to find some inspiration today, you could see how that evening star pattern could easily be developed if we have that black candle coming into here and we break down below these that little support right there. Well, we could start moving right back down to test some of these support levels in the chart pretty easily. So watch that carefully. Our VIX yesterday just didn't do a whole lot, but it did ease back just a little bit, pulling back. But one of the things that you want to notice in here, that we are still holding this upside trend here on the VIX. So although we have a lower high in here, we also have higher low potential. So if this just rests and consolidates right in here, that's where that worry point will come in if we start seeing that VIX creeping back up on any data. We need to see, if you're a bull in this market, we need to see that VIX continuing to fade this and breaking that upside trend here in the chart. Let's take a look at our T20s. Our T2122 yesterday, well, kind of interesting how that played out yesterday, because T2122 shot clear up here as I was anticipating early in the morning, and then just really quickly started to fade back. By the end of the day, we were back down in here. So at least we made a higher print in here. We're showing a little bit of an advancement. We've got about 24% of the stocks in here kind of holding up, so we'll want to watch that pretty carefully. If the bulls find inspiration today, we certainly have plenty of upside area for them to move in to the upside. If the bears, however, find inspiration, we've opened up an additional downside move if those bears were to get going on any disappointing data points or something like that here in the market. So watch that close. If we take a look at our T2108, well, our T2108, at one point in time, we did break this resistance here, and we're pushing up above, but by the end of the day, we ended up coming in kind of flat, a little bit of a hockey stick here in the air, and sometimes that will signal, as you can see, a hockey stick up here in the air, signal a pullback. Watch that carefully. If we get some kind of bearishness in the market today, well, a pullback into here, we'll be looking at this price support in the chart. But one thing is for sure, it's a little bit difficult to see a very, very bullish market when we've got 25% of the stocks barely holding on to their 40-day moving average. And although we have been moving up sharply here in the indexes, it really is just one area of the market, and that's the big tech giants that are doing all of the lifting. We've turned all of our indexes into a tech index. Diamond SPY and QQQ having the majority of those tech stocks in there, so as long as we can pump the big techs, we can continue to push the market up. But you can see the majority of the market is kind of struggling in here, and we'll want to be paying attention to that pretty closely. Our T2107 percentage of stocks above the 200-day actually pulled back by the end of the day here. Now we're still holding onto these support levels in a little tiny upside trend. So if those bulls can find inspiration here, we need to start breaking this to the upside and being able to hold. Right now about 44% of the stocks holding above their 200-day moving average, and you can see that possibility if we were to push lower. Breaking down below here would likely raise a little bit of concern on T2107. And our real problem here is T2101, which is the absolute breadth of the market. And the absolute breadth of the market continued to decline yesterday as we were surging to the upside. So what that is telling us here is, although tech stocks were driving everything in the market yesterday, the majority of the market was not feeling the same kind of love, and consequently that breadth continues to fall. Now remember, every day that passes we get deeper and deeper into the blackout period where more and more stocks cannot do anything to manipulate their price with corporate buybacks or things like that. They have to remain quiet in that blackout period. So it is not uncommon as we wait for the next round of earnings to see this decline pulling back with that uncertainty about the next round of earnings. Will they be able to support the current prices? So watch that closely here. If this continues to fade, that easily could embolden the bears to make a little bit harder push. We'll have to wait and see. Now, if we take a look at our economic calendar here for today, our economic calendar, well, we've got just a few things to be paying attention to here this morning. First off, we've got Barkin speaking this morning. By the way, the Fed funds futures are suggesting it's about a 97% chance that there will not be a rate cut in December, but we'll want to be keeping an eye on that. There is some new worries about inflation, and particularly when we're seeing it move up in Europe. Obviously, a little bit of concern on that here as well. If we take a look, we've got international trading goods this morning. They're expecting that to come in at a deficit of a negative 77.6 billion. That's up from 73.8. We tend to ignore this anymore. We don't care about those deficits anymore, but watch that closely as that continues to rally. If we take a look, ISM services, they're looking at ISM services to increase to a 53.2, up from 52.1, and they're looking for the job openings report to come in at 7.65 million. So keep an eye on that. That's a little bit of a decline. That could be bullish for the market and might ease some of the bond pressures that we're seeing here if that does decline, but it might also concern the overall market about jobs, so watch that closely. And then we've got a 10-year note auction in here to be paying attention to, so keep an eye on that. Remember, as we move over into Wednesday, we've got the mortgage applications, we've got an ADP report. Jobless claims will be in there on Wednesday. They've shifted that over because we're going to be closed on Thursday, so we've got jobless claims coming in here on Wednesday. Christopher Waller will be speaking. Wholesale inventories, petroleum prices in here. We've got a natural gas report, some bond auctions with a 30-year in there, and the FOMC minutes, and that is heading into the closure on Thursday, where you can see we have a parade of Fed speakers in here, but we'll want to be watching that pretty closely on that National Day of Mourning for President Jimmy Carter, so watch that carefully here on this shortened week. Let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. Well, how about we take a look first at what's going on in our earnings calendar here today. First off, this morning we're going to hear from APOG. We got a few notables here today. APOG. APOG reporting this morning. Looks like we're getting a little bit of a disappointment in the pre-market on that. Kind of a bearish flag pattern, looking kind of short there on APOG. We've got LNN reporting this morning. Keep an eye on that one. And RPM will also be reporting today. It looks like a little disappointment following through on that one as well today. If we take a look at this afternoon's reports, we've got AIR. There'll be AZZ reporting this afternoon. We've got CALM that will be in there this afternoon, and SLP. So those are your notables for today that we'll want to be paying attention to for those earnings reports. So how about we take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click the bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, please do me that favor, click that thumbs up button and leave a brief comment. That helps the channel. Thank you so much for everyone who does take the time to do that, and I am truly humbled all the time when I look at the subscriber numbers, and I'm just truly humbled. I never would have expected there would be this many people that would be interested in a video that contains no hype and no prediction in the market. Just really takes a look at the details of the market. So thank you so much, everyone. You are truly awesome. I truly appreciate it. Let's take a look at some of these stocks that could be setting up. And remember, everyone, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence. Be very careful in this market. And remember that we've got this uncertainty. We've got a debt ceiling coming up here really quick. We're going to have an inauguration coming up here really quick. And lots of changes coming, as well as the pending round of earnings. So there is a palpable amount of uncertainty here in the market, and it's not uncommon to see choppy consolidations during these periods of time as we wait for the next round of earnings. So choose your trades very carefully, because it is so easy to get major drawdowns in markets like this as we chop around. Let's take a look at Take a look at Lulu here. Lulu's making a nice move here, breaking through its downtrend here and getting that good push to the upside. Now, I typically don't want to chase that move here. I want this to rest now, pull back and show me that next buy signal in here to resume an upside trend. But watch that closely. Lulu trying to turn around, showing some bullishness, worth keeping an eye on. We might also want to be keeping an eye on GME if you have an interest in this. I mentioned this yesterday. Nice little resting pullback in there. That ended up popping yesterday. We'll see if that can follow on through here today, if we can get enough momentum to do that, if you're into that kind of stock. Take a look at LAZR. LAZR, big zooming move up out of this bottom. I wouldn't want to chase this here. I think we're pushing into this resistance level of the chart. It may have a little bit higher to go, but what I would be watching for is that resting pullback in here. If this gets a little consolidating resting pullback, then I'd look for that next opportunity, that resumption of an upside trend. Keep an eye on laser trying to come around. Take a look at Snap. Snap, also big zooming move here to the upside the last few days, breaking this downtrend, coming right back up here into this resistance. And once again, I don't want to chase these big zooming moves. You chase that big zooming move and you can oftentimes get stopped out. So wait for that rest or pullback in here. If that can consolidate, rest, pullback, that would set up a pretty nice opportunity. If you guys remember, I've been talking about Ralph Lauren, and there's one of those patterns that I'm talking about. We break through the downtrend, we pop up, and then we just rest a little bit, and there's your potential entry into an easy, low-risk entry into a trade that followed through. Had a nice little profit in there yesterday, so keep a close eye on that. Take a look at PayPal. PayPal also had a nice little pop back up, but I am a little concerned on this. We're popping back up. Notice this trend I've got in here. We're popping that back up here. We're going to see if we can deal with this price resistance here in the chart. What I'd really like to see is a little bit of resting consolidation now and holding a higher low so that we can attack those all-time highs here. Or not all-time highs, but we can attack this recent high and push on through. But it is worth keeping an eye on. While at the same time, I have a little bit of concern about some of our financials in here. We did try to pop and go yesterday. The follow through on this is going to be extremely important, I think. You want to keep an eye on this resistance, and technically speaking, that is a little lower high in the chart. So if this were to fade, watch that carefully. I think our financials, a lot of them could end up in a short pattern. And the same thing when we look at our regional banks. Our regional banks, this is what I call, well, a lot of people call a bear flag. And we have pushed down, flagging this out. Little shooting star in there yesterday. Any follow through to the downside sets that up short. So keep an eye on some of those regionals out there, not looking so good overall. Disney had some good news yesterday. Going into Fubo, and if you take a look at Fubo had a huge day yesterday on that news. Picking up, I certainly wouldn't want to chase that, but watch this carefully. If Disney gets any extra benefit out of that, we might finally start to see this break this consolidation that we've seen here in the chart. Let's take a look at DLTR making some moves here. Take a look at this big long downtrend in Dollar Tree. We've been moving up progressively in this move, and now we've got this little resting pattern in here. Keep an eye on that. See if that can find that energy to push on through. If we can get some bullishness, we might just break on through up there and get something going. Keep a close eye on that. PLTR continues to look very good here in the market. Very strong resting consolidation coming back into this trend. I would be watching for that next opportunity there as well, for that push to the upside. Take a look at Cisco. Now, Cisco has been resting in this consolidating move here. Unfortunately, it's just kind of faded back a little bit below this support level here in the chart. But if we can get some bullishness coming in to the market, and we can see if there's some follow through on tech, you might see that shooting star hold and push right back up. But if those bears find any inspiration in here, this one you're going to have to watch pretty closely. I could easily see this tumbling down in there pretty fast if some bears start to come on in that tech sector. Just watch that closely. Take a look at Dick's Sporting Goods. Dick's Sporting Goods holding into a nice bullish pattern. We've pushed up, holding in here. Notice this big area of resistance up here in the chart. If we can get some bullishness here on any of that retail, that pop through there might be just what you're looking for. And then Deckers also showing some bullishness here. Deckers showing some bullishness in this nice little resting consolidation. Now, clearly we have slipped past our upside trend in here, but notice we're trying to get that little bit of upside pressure going. So watch this. Oh, this changed the tool on me. Watch that area up here to see if we can find that bullishness to pop on through that area and really start extending Deckers out to the upside. So keep a close eye on that. So with that, everyone, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. Thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate it. Y'all take care, be safe. Wish you great success in your trading, and I'll see you right back here bright and early Wednesday morning. Wish you all the best.